The first steps into Chevrolet's forgotten 60s lead us to a shape that feels almost unreal, as if it drifted in from a decade not yet born. The Chevrolet Corvair Monza GT of 1962 was never meant to sit in a dealership window. It lived in the quiet corners of General Motors, where designers and engineers spoke in sketches, dreams, and late-night experiments that the world was not supposed to see. Its fiberglass body settled low to the ground, smooth as a jet's wing carving through cold morning air. Larry Shinoda shaped every curve with the confidence of a man listening to the future instead of the present. Beneath that light shell rested a mid-mounted flat six, air-cooled and measuring 140 cubic inch. It breathed out a little more than 100 horsepower, enough to send the Monza GT gliding to 60 miles an hour in a touch past 10 seconds, a small miracle for a concept born from raw imagination. Independent suspension on all four corners and disc brakes at every wheel hinted at a Chevrolet that wanted to move faster than the era allowed. Only a single drivable example remains today, valued well above $1 million, standing as a gentle reminder of what the Corvair story might have become had the world embraced its daring spirit. If uncovering legends like this stirs something in you, drift by and subscribe to American Muscle Soul. There are still many shadows left to explore. There comes a moment in every decade when imagination breaks free from the rules around it. And for Chevrolet's 60s, that moment arrived in the form of the Astro 1. Revealed in 1967, it appeared less like a concept car and more like a visiting shape from a distant tomorrow, a sculpture carved for speed and simplicity at a time when most automobiles were growing larger and heavier. Its body followed a slender, flowing bottle curve that drew the eye forward into a sharply pointed nose, the kind of design that seemed to part the air before the wheels even began to roll. The roofline sat astonishingly low, barely higher than the waist of a grown man, and its entire canopy lifted as a single piece, an aviation-inspired gesture that felt daring even by the standards of General Motors' most experimental studios. Beneath the fiberglass skin lived a compact flat six derived from the Corvair, air-cooled and tucked deep into the rear section. Though modest in displacement, the placement and lightweight construction allowed the engine to breathe cleanly and matched the low-drag philosophy that defined the Astro 1's every contour. Retractable headlights, side-breathing ducts, and an interior shaped around pure function revealed how seriously Chevrolet pursued aerodynamic purity. If this rare beauty sparks your imagination, share your thoughts by leaving the number 1 if it speaks to you, or the number 0 if it leaves you curious but unconvinced. And as the shadow of the Astro 1 fades into memory, we step into a more earthbound but no less electrifying moment in Chevrolet's forgotten lineage. The Chevrolet Chevelle Z16 of 1965 was not a rocket-shaped experiment. It was a street-born declaration, a quiet warning that Chevrolet knew how to hide thunder beneath a clean, mid-sized silhouette. Its body carried that flowing bottle curve of the era, a shape that seemed to pull the road toward it. Beneath the hood waited a 396 cubic inch V8, a deep-breathing engine that summoned roughly 375 horsepower and could send the Z16 sweeping toward a top speed near 130 miles per hour. It felt like a storm dressed in Sunday clothes, polished but full of wild spirit. Chevrolet strengthened the suspension and sharpened the brakes, yet the old recirculating ball steering remained, a small reminder that even legends have their fragile corners. When new, the Z16 package alone added roughly $1,500 to a Malibu SS, pushing the window sticker well into the low to mid $4,000 range. Only a little more than 200 examples ever rolled into existence, each one now valued in the hundreds of thousands. The trail through Chevrolet's forgotten creations brings us to a quieter moment, where imagination took on a softer, more graceful form. Standing beside the bold Monza GT was a companion carved for open-air dreams, the Chevrolet Corvair Monza SS. First revealed in early 60s, It carried the spirit of a roadster shaped not for sales catalogs but for the designers who believed the future should feel light, agile, and impossibly elegant. Its shortened wheelbase and sculpted fiberglass body gave the Monza SS an almost weightless presence, as if it had been formed by the wind that rushed across its curves. Bill Mitchell's team infused it with an unmistakable aviation character, the kind of shape you might expect to catch glinting under a hangar light rather than idling on a city street. Magnesium wheels, deep breathing vents, and a cockpit focused purely on the driver made it clear that this machine existed to explore a different side of the Corvair story. Power was presumed to come from the familiar Flat 6, an air-cooled 140 cubic inch engine that brought a lively pulse to its featherlight frame. Yet the Monza SS never ventured beyond the show floor. It remained a symbol, a possibility, a glimpse of what Chevrolet could have chased had the world been ready for something so daring. Even now, its influence can be felt in the sports cars that followed, as though a faint blueprint was laid beneath their steel, guiding them quietly from beneath the surface. From the light and airy spirit of the Monza SS, our story shifts toward a machine that carried its strength with the calm certainty of a battleship moving through open water. The Chevrolet Impala SS 427, introduced in the middle of the 1960s, was built on a different scale altogether. It was not meant to be subtle, it was meant to be felt. Its long body lines stretched across the pavement with a kind of effortless authority. Sunlight slid along the chrome the same way it glides across polished steel, revealing the quiet pride of a full-sized Chevrolet standing at the height of the muscle era. Beneath its broad hood waited the formidable 427 cubic inch big block V8, an engine whose deep breath produced well over 400 horsepower. When unleashed, it could sweep the Impala SS to 60 miles an hour in only a handful of heartbeats, settling near 130 miles an hour before Chevrolet's own constraints guided it back. Inside, the touches were elegant yet firm, the kind of details that told you this machine was designed for both power and presence. Its original price rested in the mid-$4,000 range, a serious commitment at the time. Today, well-preserved examples rise far beyond $100,000, treasured as icons of an age when American muscle carried both grace and brute force. If you are still traveling with me through these hidden Chevrolet stories, leave a comment with the number 5 so I know you are still riding beside this legend of the boulevard. Every journey into the past eventually leads to a machine that refuses to be judged by its appearance. And among Chevrolet's forgotten creations, a few embody that truth more clearly than the Biscayne 427 L72. At first glance, it looked like any other full-size sedan built for quiet neighborhoods and long family roads. But Chevrolet hid something extraordinary beneath its modest skin. The Biscayne carried clean, unadorned body lines, the kind that pass through traffic without turning a single head. No bold stripes, no chrome excess, no attempt to announce the strength waiting beneath the hood. Yet that hood sheltered the mighty L72, a 427 cubic inch big block V8 whose true power was understood only by those who dared to awaken it. Chevrolet rated it conservatively, but racers across the country knew the truth. This unassuming sedan could outpace many celebrated performance heroes with startling ease. Because the Biscayne weighed less than its flashier siblings, the L72 transformed it into a sleeper of the highest order. At stoplights and drag strips from coast to coast, drivers learned not to underestimate a car that appeared this ordinary. Many Biscaynes lived hard lives in racing hands, leaving only a rare few surviving today, each treated like a fragment of a secret chapter in Chevrolet's muscle heritage. Quiet on the outside, thunder at the core, the Biscayne 427 L72 stands as proof that real power never needs to shout. The deeper we move into Chevrolet's forgotten 60s, the more we begin to see how power sometimes chose the smallest and quietest frames to make its presence known. Few machines proved that better than the Chevrolet Nova SS 327, a compact coupe that carried the attitude of a heavyweight hidden inside a featherlight shell. The Nova did not rely on long, sweeping lines or imposing proportions. Its design was clean and purposeful, almost modest, as though Chevrolet wanted the car to blend into the streets before surprising anyone watching. But once the hood lifted, the truth emerged. The 327 cubic inch V8 settled tightly into the engine bay, a lively power plant known for its eager revs and sharp response. In the hands of the right driver, it delivered performance that far outpaced expectations for a car this small. Because the Nova SS weighed significantly less than the big block Chevrolets of its era, the 327 gave it a playful edge, launching it off the line with the quickness of a lightweight fighter stepping into the ring. It was the kind of strength that did not need theatrics. It simply acted. Period magazines often called it a wolf in gentle clothing, a label earned each time it embarrassed larger rivals at stoplights and drag strips across the country. Today, surviving examples remind us how sometimes the greatest thrill comes not from size or noise, but from balance, lightness, and a heart that beats harder than anyone expects. As our journey stretches into the late 60s, the story brings us to a machine born not from quiet experimentation, but from the heat of competition. The Chevrolet Camaro Z28 of 1968 and 1969 carried a purpose sharper than most muscle cars of its era. It existed because Chevrolet wanted to win, and winning meant building something the streets could recognize but the racetrack could truly fear. On the surface, the Z28 looked restrained, almost dignified, its lines drawn tight against the body as if hiding a secret beneath the paint. The secret was the 302 cubic inch V8, a high-winding heart, built to meet the rules of the Trans Am series. When paired with the rare cross-ram intake designed for deep, hungry breathing, the engine transformed into a fierce performer that could climb through its revs with a kind of eager violence. Drivers spoke of how the Z28 felt alive at higher speeds, how the engine seemed to wake up fully only when pushed hard enough to make lesser cars hesitate. Lightweight construction, firm suspension tuning, and a transmission built for steady punishment made it a weapon for those who truly understood balance and momentum. The few surviving cross-ram cars stand as treasured relics, reminders of a moment when Chevrolet built a street car with the soul of a racer, demanding to be driven with both respect and nerve. Every era has a machine that carries the heartbeat of its time, and as we move deeper into Chevrolet's forgotten 60s, the story leads naturally to a name spoken with a kind of reverence even after decades have passed. The Chevrolet Chevelle SS was not just another muscle car. It was the moment when Chevrolet realized how far raw power and clean design could go when bound together with intent. The Chevelle SS carried a posture that felt balanced between elegance and aggression. Its body lines were smooth, confident, and familiar to anyone who lived through the golden age of American performance. But the real character lived under the hood, where Chevrolet placed a family of engines that grew more fearsome with each passing year. The most celebrated among them was the 396 cubic inch V8, a deep-breathing powerhouse known for its broad waves of torque and unmistakable growl. Chassis reinforcements, firmer suspension tuning, and stronger brakes helped the Chevelle SS plant its power to the pavement with a steadiness that surprised drivers used to lighter coupes or full-sized bruisers. What set it apart was not just speed, but the confidence with which it delivered that speed. It felt composed, ready, almost eager to show how refined muscle could be when Chevrolet paid attention to every detail. Many Chevelles lived hard lives on drag strips and back roads, leaving well-kept examples cherished today as embodiments of a decade when American streets pulsed with horsepower and hope. By the time our story reaches its final turn, the road brings us to a creation that lived almost entirely in the margins, a machine whispered about more than seen. The Chevrolet Corvette experimental cheetah contender of the early 1960s was born from ambition rather than corporate planning, a project shaped by racers and engineers who believed Chevrolet could challenge the fiercest machines of its time if given the freedom to try. Its silhouette looked unlike anything on American pavement. The cabin sat far back, the nose long and pointed, and the body wrapped tight around a frame built for agility more than comfort. It held the stance of a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Beneath that lean shell lay a 427 cubic inch V8, the same mighty heart that powered some of Chevrolet's most fearsome big block legends. In a body this light, the engine became something close to explosive, pushing the Cheetah Contender into the realm of true racers. Though intended to face rivals like the Shelby Cobra, the project moved in shadows. Limited resources, shifting corporate rules, and the realities of motorsport politics kept the car from ever reaching its full destiny. Only a handful were built, each one representing a vision of what Chevrolet might have achieved had the circumstances aligned. Even today, the Cheetah Contender feels like a spark from an alternate timeline, a reminder that some of the greatest dreams in American performance history flickered only briefly before disappearing into legend. And so, our journey through these forgotten Chevrolet creations comes to a quiet rest, like headlights dimming at the end of a long night. Each machine carried its own whisper of the 1960s, a decade when imagination burned bright and power felt endless. If any of these hidden legends stirred your memory or lit a new spark, share your thought below, and stay close to American Muscle Soul, where the next forgotten story is already warming its engine.